be looking at this capstone project with the lift up coffee table lid on it. What you, excuse me, I've got the hiccups. What you see in the picture here is the prototype one that we made when we were first trying to get some dimensions down for how this coffee table is going to work. Since we've got the prototype built, been able to take some measurements. We're going to make a few changes that I'm going to document here this morning with you. First of all, whenever we're drawing something that we are actually going to build, it's important that we make everything a component. I'm going to start with the base, and the base is going to kind of be what everything gets built off of. I'm going to go 40 inches wide, 40 inches long, and I'm going to go 18 inches wide. You'll notice that that's a little bit shorter, but it's also a little bit wider than the original. This is going to give us a little more stability so it's not tippy, and it's also going to give us more room for that lift up hinge mechanism that this original one didn't have room for. Our base is just going to be a piece of 3/4 inch particle board, MDF, whatever it is that we have in stock. We always want to make that a component. I will call it base. From there, you'll see that we've got a little bit of a reveal on the side. It looks, to me, it looks kind of cheesy when things line up, and there's a seam. So I always like to give myself, excuse me, a little bit of a reveal. And here, looks like I think we're going to do about a 1/4 inch. But I'm struggling with the measure tool right now. Yeah, we got a 1/4 inch there. So the easiest way to go about this is with my guide tool. So I'm just going to pop in 1/4 inch over, and then I'm going to bop over 3/4 of an inch over. I'm going to do that here. I'm going to, whoops, accidentally typed in 0.75, but if you don't push any other buttons, you can just correct that right away. Okay, now I'm going to draw my sides. And it starts with a rectangle. We want to talk a little bit about how tall we want to make this, and it's going to depend a little bit on how tall the legs are that we're going to put on here. I'm going to suggest, 4-inch legs. The hinge mechanism, we'll try to demonstrate it over here, is going to lift the top of the coffee table up 5 inches into your lap. So it's going to kind of come like this, and it's going to go up about 5 inches. Okay. We want that to sit at about 24 or 25 inches. If you're sitting on a couch, the top of your legs are at about 23 or 24 inches. Kind of depends on the height of the couch. But generally speaking, we want the top of this platform to be at about 25 inches. That's going to give you a comfortable height to put a computer on there, a magazine, whatever it is that you're looking at, a video game controller. So we want it to be 25 inches tall. If we have feet that are 4 inches tall, we've got our base that's 3/4 of an inch tall, and we've got our top that's 3/4 of an inch tall. So if we do our math here, we have a foot that's 4 inches, a base that is 3/4 of an inch. I'll move this out of the way so that you can see. And we have a top that is 3/4 of an inch. That's 5.5 inches. Remember that this travels up 5 inches. So we can add that 5 inches. So we got 10.5 inches. We're going to have to subtract our final dimension of 25 inches minus 10.5. So if we go 25, we're left with 14.5 inches. So I want my sides to be 14.5 inches tall. I'm going to grab this. I'm just going to make this the same. Oh, it looks like I drew the rectangle. You see how the rectangle got off a little bit there? All I got to do is go 0.25 and push that over. But before I go any further, I need to make these things components. I'm going to call this a side. We'll get this out of the way, but you can see what I'm doing again. There we go. Call this side. I'm going to call this side 2. I must have called on that original one. I'll call it side 22, it doesn't really matter. Okay. So now those are components. After this, we need to edit the components a little bit because on one end, we're going to be fixed. And I want that fixed end. On this one, I didn't have the overhang there. On this end, we're going to have an end that'll get biscuited on both sides. And we can screw it up from the bottom. But I want to keep that reveal going all the way around. So to do that, I'm going to adjust or edit my component. Double click on it so it's active. Remember the plywood that we're using, or particle board or MDF, whatever we have in stock, is 3/4 of an inch thick. So that means if I want that to be flush, I push that in 0.75, but I want there to be a 1/4 inch overhang. So I'm actually going to push it into there 1/4 of an inch. That way, there's 1 inch from here to here. So that when I put my end on, I still have that 1/4 inch reveal from my bottom. Do the same thing over here. I'm just going to push it in 1 inch. And then if I look at my example, the original one, deselect, there we go. I see that I'm going to have a drawer over here, and I want the same thing. I want that same reveal. So I'm going to come over to this side, and I'm going to do the same thing. Push it in 1 inch. If I would have just originally copied one side from the other, it would do this automatically. Save a step. Okay, now I need to put my false end on there, or the end that's going to be for the lift up lid. So I'm going to get rid of my guidelines, edit, guides, and I am just going to draw another rectangle right on top of here. And then I'm going to pull that out, 0.75. You can get fancier if you want. If you want to miter this, we can miter that so you don't see a joint, but we want to make sure that this is either a solid piece of wood or we do a really good job edge taping that so we don't see the edge of the MDF or particle board. Okay, now we got to decide how big we want our drawer to be. We've got lots of different sizes of drawer slides. I like those undermount guides that we use in our first project. So what that means is we are probably going to have to choose between a 12 or a 15-inch drawer. Those are the two sizes that the tops come in, or the drawer slides come in. So I am going to say I'm going to do a 12-inch drawer slide. So I'm going to put a partition in here back at 14 inches to give myself a little bit of wiggle room. So that's going to allow a 12-inch drawer to open and close there. The partition is 3/4 of an inch wide. And then I'm just going to draw it in. To bring it up there. So this is going to be my opening for a drawer. I want the top to be fixed where we have the opening for the drawer. So the top, if we come back here and look at our example one, the top, let's move it back down. We want there to be a little bit of play. Whoops. We want there to be a little bit of play in the top. If it's exactly the same as the exact same size and there's no space in there, we're going to have trouble. So I like to leave, I don't know if SketchUp will let me do this without drawing some guidelines. We're going to leave 1/8 of an inch or so. A little bit bigger is okay. We're going to leave a little gap. We'll call that 1/8 of an inch gap on my cabinet. So to get that 1/8 of an inch gap, I don't like these extra guidelines, so get rid of them. I'm going to find the center of this at 375 3/8. And I'm going to go over 1/16 of an inch, 0.625. And I'm going to go over 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to delete that guideline in the middle. And I'm also going to put a guideline over here. I want the top to have a little bigger overhang than the bottom. I want there to be 1 inch overhang. So if I do my math right, I remember I've got 1 inch because of the drawer front. So if I go 1 inch, I'm going to have that be exactly the same as the top. So I'm going to come out here, I'm just going to go 2 inches bigger. And this is really up to you. I'm not picky about how you do this, but I like a little bigger overhang on the top, especially on a top that we're going to be grabbing and moving. And we may get this all done, and I might look at it and say, 2 inches, that might just be a little bit too much. So I like drawing on SketchUp because I can see, and I will pull that up to be 3/4 tall. You can see I drew the rectangle to the wrong line there. But even in that little bit, I didn't like that 2 inches. I'm going to go back to an inch overhang. If you like the 2-inch overhang, that's great. I still need to take into account I got 3/4 of an inch there. Excuse me. So I'm going to go 1.75, and I'm just going to do an inch here, an inch. I think I forgot to make this a component. Yep. Call it partition. Partition 1. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I've already got those guidelines. I'm going to bring this one over. Since I don't have the drawer fronts already fixed, I can pull it off of here. Give myself that 1-inch overhang. Draw that. Pull it up to the same height. If you're seeing this hole there, that usually means is I forgot to make something a component. It didn't make that a component, so make component. We'll call this end panel. I don't think it'll merge if that's selected, but I want to make sure it's not selected. Now, when I pull this up, I should be good to go. Well, it looks like I drew the rectangle to the wrong line. I am struggling here this morning. There we go. So now we have the case parts done. I'm going to delete the guides. Make sure you save this. So you got I'm going to save mine. Make sure you save that.